Okay, this section, and most of this chapter really, should again be a repeat of Algebra 1. The first couple chapters, that's what I do, is I review Algebra 1 because those are all fundamentals that you need in order to be successful in Algebra 2. So again, hopefully you've seen this before. It's not going to be new. We're talking about finding slope when we're given a line, and then we're talking about being able to write an equation of that line in slope-intercept form. Okay? Slope-intercept form is this. This is called slope-intercept form. The reason it's called slope-intercept form is because m is the slope and b is your y-intercept. Hence, slope-intercept form. What does a y-intercept mean?
The y is equal to cross.
What's that?
Where it touches, where the circle touches the line.
Where the line
Yes.
touches
The line.
the y-axis, where the line crosses the y-axis. When I look at the x and y axes, this is x, this is y. Okay? So wherever a line crosses the y-axis, which is the vertical axis, that's called the y-intercept. Okay? At this point, whatever point it is, if it's here, what's the value of x?
Whatever n is.
Nope. What's the value of x at this point?
0.
0. The value of y is 2. Okay, so your y-intercept is always where x is 0. Okay, if you're given a point and x is 0, you can look at that point right away and say, they just gave me the y-intercept. That's pretty cool. Okay, then you don't even have to solve for things because you already know what the y-intercept is. So those are the best kinds of questions, and those are the questions ACT likes to throw out or give you because they want to see that you understand 0, 2 is the y-intercept. Okay? You can go through the long way of solving an equation, putting it in slope-intercept form if you don't understand that, but if you understand that, you just saved yourself about 30 seconds on a question, which is good. You want all the time you can have on the ACT. So just recognize anytime you're given a point that has 0 for x, that's always going to be the y-intercept. Okay? The other thing they talk about in this section is quadrants. What is this quadrant?
What one? 2, 3.
That's quadrant 1.
Oh yeah, does that go away?
This is quadrant 2. This is quadrant 3. This is quadrant 4. Okay? It's always where x and y are both positive is the first quadrant. And then we just go counterclockwise all the way around. 2, 3, and 4. So what's the value, what's the sign of x and y in the third quadrant?
It would be
What'd you say, Sam? They're both negative, right? All the x values are negative in this quadrant. All the y values are negative in this quadrant. So x and y are both negative here. They're both positive here. X is negative, y is positive. X is positive, y is negative. Okay? 4 quadrants. Okay, so this section we're going to learn how to find the slope 2 different ways. One is knowing the slope formula, which when it comes time for a test, when you haven't seen it in months, the chances of you remembering it are pretty slim because there's a lot of stuff in that head that you're trying to keep track of. Okay? But the slope formula, m is slope, is the change in y over the change in x. What this means, if I've got a line that I'm trying to find the slope of, if I pick 2 points on this line, this point is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This point is -2, -3. So to find the slope of this line, the change in y, doesn't matter what I call y2, but just keep it consistent. If y2 is this point, then make x2 that point also. But it doesn't matter which one you call y2 or point 2 and point 1. So if I use this formula, y2, I'm going to call this point 2, is 5 minus negative 3 over 4 minus negative 2. Well, 5 minus negative 3 is 8. 4 minus negative 2 is 6. So the slope is 4/3. I think there's an easier way to find the slope, and something that you don't really have to remember a formula for. And it's something that the section talked about, which is called the triangle method. The triangle method says just create a triangle that's a right triangle between the 2 points. Okay? Now we know slope is the change in y over the change in x. So what is the change in y? Let's go from this point to this point. What does y do? Goes down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units. And it goes down, so it's negative. Up on the y-axis is positive, down is negative. Right on the x-axis is positive, left is negative, right? Correct? Okay. So from this point, I'm now going negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Same slope. So either memorize this formula or simply draw a triangle between the 2 points and do change in y over change in x.
That's easy.
Okay? The only time this won't work, the triangle method won't work, is if you're given like a really strange decimal number. But even then it will work. I mean, if this was 4.67, well, I'm going down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.67 units. You know, but most of the time in questions that you're going to have on the ACT or questions on tests for me, I'm not going to give you strange decimals. So the triangle method should work most of the time. Either way, if you remember this formula from Algebra 1, use it if that's what you're comfortable with. If you like the triangle method, practice the triangle method with your homework so you get it kind of as a habit for yourself, and then you know how to do it when you forget the formula. Okay? All right. So the other piece of this, if I wanted to find the equation of this line, I need 2 things to put it in slope-intercept form. The slope, which I've found, and then the y-intercept. If it's obvious, which in this one it is, what the y-intercept is, then you can just look at it. What's the y-intercept here? Where does it cross the y-axis? 0. So when I'm looking at the form y equals mx plus b, I found the slope, it's 4/3. I found the y-intercept, it's 0. The equation for this line is y equals 4/3 x.
So the y-intercept is b.
Yes. Okay. Now, if I don't, it's not obvious looking at the graph what the y-intercept is, or they don't give it to you. So let's just say I want you to find the equation of the line between the points 2, 1 and negative 6, 4, and I don't have a graph. Well, I've got to find 2 things, the y-intercept and the slope. So at this point, I could go ahead and just jump right into the slope formula, or I can just off to the side make a quick sketch. 2, 1. I went too far here. Make a quick sketch. 2, 1, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I could jump in with the formula, or I can just see I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to go right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The slope is negative 3/8. Okay, I didn't even have to really draw the triangle in, but you can. That's the line I'm trying to find. Okay, do you see that the y-intercept isn't really, when I sketch it in, it's hard to see what that might be. So how can I find it? How can I find exactly what that y-intercept is given 2 points?
So
Jaron? The slope-intercept form. Yep. I found the slope already, right? So I can write y equals negative 3/8 x plus b. Well, this puts me in a spot, though, because now I've got an unknown y, an unknown x, and an unknown b, and I'm trying to find b. What can I do? Plug in what? What y? Okay, so what you're saying is pick a point, because we know those 2 points are on this line, right? I could pick this point, or I could pick this point. This is x, this is y. So all I have to do is plug that in for x and y, and then I can find, with some algebra, what b is. A lot of times, this one would be a perfectly fine point, but I like to go with the ones that are the easiest numbers. So I'm going to use 2 and 1 for my x and y. But yes, Tristan, you were right. That's exactly what you do. So I'm going to plug 1 in for y, 2 in for x, and I still don't know b. That's what I'm trying to find. So I have 1 equals, I can multiply across, or I can go ahead and cross cancel. This is 1/4. Does everybody see that? Either way. But if I multiply across, this is negative 6/8 plus b. So 1 equals negative 3/4 plus b. So how do I solve for b? Well, I need to add 3/4 to both sides. How can I get 1 rewritten with a 4 denominator? 4 over 4. There's my y-intercept. So the final step now is to put all this together. The equation of this line is y equals negative 3/8 x plus 7/4. And if I sketched it, 7/4 is almost 2, right? It's just a fourth away from 2. I mean, it was just a sketch, but it never hurts to go back and kind of look at where it crosses the y-axis and see if your answer makes sense. If I ended up getting 11/4 here because I did my fractions wrong, that little check will just save me the whole problem. Because if I look at 11/4, this is almost 2, not almost 3. So I did something wrong, and it's a good way to catch some mistakes. Okay, so that's how to find the slope-intercept form of a line when you're given 2 points. Okay, what if I gave you m is 1/4, and the point is 0, 2. How do you write the equation of that line? What do you have to do?
Kind interruption. All 11th graders, please report to the auditorium for pictures. Thank you.
Do I have any 11th? You're 11th.
It is, they skipped us.
I'm recording this, so you can come back and finish watching if you want. How do I find the equation of this line? What do I have to do? Okay, so you're plugging in the point. Just write the equation and plug in the point. What at the very beginning of this lesson, what did I talk about? This point is always called the y-intercept. If you could recognize that I just gave you the y-intercept, I just saved you all the hassle of having to solve, didn't I? That's what I was talking about. I can just write this, and I'm done. Okay, so be on the lookout for those little tricks, because otherwise you have to, you're going to take the equation, you're going to plug in 1/4. I'm going to plug in this point, right? I'm going to have to solve for x, and I'm going to figure out that it's the same. Or solve for b, sorry. This is wrong. 2 plus b, right?
Yep, you're right.
So it's going to save you time if you would recognize that what I gave you was the y-intercept. You don't have to do any of this math. Okay? So you're going to have times when you're given the slope and a point. Just plug in y equals mx plus b, put the slope in for m, put that point in for y and x, solve for b. You're going to be given the slope and the y-intercept, which I just did. Those are the easiest. Y equals the slope times x plus plus b that I give you. You're going to have the 2 points. That's the one I did just a few minutes ago, where you have to find the slope first, either using the slope formula or the triangle method, and then write your equation y equals mx plus b, put one of those 2 points in for x and y, solve for b, and then write your equation. All of those will be possible problems that you'll have in this section. Okay? What is the slope of a a vertical line? What is the slope of a vertical line? What's constant? The x values or the y values? Yeah, look at a few points on here. This point here is 3, 1. This point here, 3, 3, 3, 5, 3, negative 1. What's constant? X. So this is an equation. Vertical equations are always an x equals some number. In this case, x equals 3. If the x values are constant, where is the change in x in the slope formula? The numerator or the denominator? Denominator is the change in x. And if x is constant, 3 minus 3 in this case is 0. What happens when my denominator is 0? It's undefined. The slope of vertical lines is always undefined. Okay? If you ever just see a vertical line, you don't even need to do any math. The slope is undefined, no matter what. Okay? How about horizontal? Yep. Y is constant. In this case, y equals 3. The numerator is a 0 then. Anytime the numerator is 0, doesn't matter. It's always 0. Right? So the horizontal lines always have a 0 slope, no matter what.
So no math for that either.
No math for that either. If you see a horizontal line, 0 slope. Slope is 0. Vertical, slope's undefined. Vertical lines are always x equals. Horizontal lines are always y equals. Okay? Let's take a look at the textbook check. In what quadrants of the Cartesian plane, which is just your xy axis, what quadrants is y negative? 3 and 4. Y is negative right here. Right? Y is positive here, negative here, so quadrants 3 and 4. To find the slope of a line, one method is to use the slope formula. Another method is the triangle method. What is the slope of a horizontal line? 0. Horizontal, 0. In the video, there's the following true-false question. The slope of a line is always constant. True or false? True. Always constant. And then finally, question 5. In the slope-intercept video, James Souza says it's always helpful to write the slope as a fraction, because that always tells you the change in y over the change in x. So if I had the slope, I told you the slope is 1.333. What would be easier for you to figure out what that really means? 1.333 repeating. What's a fraction that would represent that? What's 0.3333 repeating as a fraction? A third. And 1 plus a third is 1 1/3 or 4/3. You always want to write it as an improper. Okay? Because is equal to 1 plus 1/3, which is 4/3. This tells me I'm going to go up 4 units and to the right 3 units. Okay? So you always want, no matter what, that the fraction's written as an improper fraction. Or the slope, I mean, is written as an improper fraction. Okay? Questions on this section? Again, this should have just been a really good review of Algebra 1. Okay, web work is due tomorrow night. CK12, our first quiz will be Tuesday next week. So all the CK12 for 2.1 through 2.4 will be due Tuesday. All right.